Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Friday Thrive O'Clock broadcast. My name is Melody McAllister, and I'm here with the incredible Rachelle Danae Poth. And it has been such a crazy week, my friend. And we're going to have the amazing Jorge Valenzuela. I didn't even ask. I hope I said that. I hope I said his last name right. He's going to come up in just a minute. But Rachelle, how are you doing? And what has this week been like for you?
Well, I am glad that I realized that it's actually Friday because for a little bit I was like, wait, is today really Friday? Yeah. So it has been, it feels like it was 2 weeks ago that I talked to you, but that was just on Monday and we had Dr. Monica Burns on. So it has been a first full week back to work, and I am tired, but it's good. I mean, it's good to be back, good to see the kids and everything. And I'm excited to have conversation today with our guest because it's always good to meet somebody kind of like for the first time live,
It
even though like you've known
is.
them for a long time. So, and we're gonna have some fun. So, how are you, ma'am? I know you've got
Yes.
some exciting things happening and home like schooling and everything.
Yes, well, yesterday we closed. Finally, it's been a traumatic summer. We finally closed on that house. And so we are going back to Alaska tomorrow. We've been in the lower 48 for 3 weeks. I have been on the road. So, yes, I will be, the next time I see you, I will be in Alaska. And if you stick around, we have a fun game coming up, Rapid Fire. I just saw one with Pink and it made me laugh so hysterically. So, stick around. We want you to join us. But let's invite our guest up. Do you want to introduce him? Because I am so excited. I don't know. I might be a little fangirl. I know he doesn't want that. He totally is like, what? We said we wouldn't do that. But do you want to go ahead
Yeah.
and introduce him, Rochelle?
Yeah, so we have Jorge Valenzuela for our guest today, and I've known you for a couple of years. We've interacted in different, I mean, you name it, all these different social media spaces. We're both ISTE authors. We both get involved in a lot of conferences and things. We actually talked on the phone a couple of weeks ago for a while, so that was nice to be able to hear each other's voices and just get to know each other. And now we're seeing face to face, hopefully in person. We can all get together soon. But you do a ton of work in so many areas that are so important. And I've learned so much from you, especially when it comes to like STEM and using some of your, the materials that I've gotten from you and resources that you've shared with my 8th grade STEAM students, and then also with SEL too. Recently this summer, we both did webinars for the ISTE Summer Learning Academy, and I just love those opportunities, even though we're not in person, but to be able to go back and learn and get new ideas and have new ways of thinking about things. So I just had to throw that all out there. So we're glad to have you today.
Oh, you're on mute. I'll unmute you.
Well, I want to say thank you so much. And I constantly chart the course. And so, yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So, I have your book, and yeah, like you're amazing. Like everything on getting smart. Like I've been a fan for a long time. And what I can't, like you say, I do a lot of things, but I don't think in our profession, there's been a person like you that you are like the prolific writer. And then when you present, like I saw you at Summer Learning Academy, and it was just amazing. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Melody, I'm a big fan. I see you on Facebook constantly putting out positive things into the universe, helping educators everywhere, which is probably explains why you're in a hotel. And so I just want to say thank you for, having me here today. And TGIF, to anyone watching out there, thank God it's Friday.
Hello. Yes. Thank God it's Friday. That is the sweetest. I don't think we've ever had a guest that's like come on and like been sweet to us like that. So you just got like 20, cool points, George. And I kind of ask this next question as we get into our topics, but because this is your thing, SEL is your thing, social emotional learning. I'm curious, is it going out of style?
Well, if you look, so I've been in education only 18 years. And I've seen that things kind of repeat themselves, right? They're repackaged and they have a different name, but it's essentially, a framework or a model that, resembles something else. For example, like if you look at thinking frameworks, a lot of them look like blooms in a way. Like, have you noticed that, right? And so I feel like things are repackaged, but when it comes to SEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or CASEL, They defined it over 20 years ago. And they have done extensive research on this. And so SEL is not really new, but I think that the national conversation around SEL is new. And that's because for the first time, well, and this is just my opinion, but for the first time, we couldn't really sweep inequities under the rug, starting with the pandemic, George Floyd, things like that. But if you really think about it, and Jen Perry from Edmentum, she said this on episode 3 of my podcast. She said, it's important to loop back to the emotions of the day. And so how can SEL really go out of style? It's the most important thing. Like if we don't have an algorithm for, number one, before we have the algorithm, if we don't know what emotions truly are and how they impact the mind, body, and behavior, emotions precede feelings and feelings precede behavior. So think of how many people don't know that.
Right.
Yeah. Like if you don't have a conscious adult to really coach you through your emotions, like when you're a little kid, you kind of don't really deal with them. And then we become adults that have this. And so if we don't have an algorithm for being able to understand what we're experiencing at any given moment, and then having a strategy for managing it, there's a huge problem. And so I think it must be part of education and, other pedagogies like, restorative justice, trauma-informed teaching, inclusive pedagogy. I think they need to be included somehow in an SEL plan. And so I hope it doesn't go out of style. I really don't. I hope that administrators are able to include educators, not just at the table, but to be part of the table and part of the discussion. Otherwise, it becomes a thing like, oh, another thing I have to do. And that's not what we need. And that's not what we want.
I love that. And I mean, so I always implement SEL throughout the entire day with everything that I teach. I always have thought it is, whenever teachers are like, yeah, we have like 20 minutes of SEL. I'm like, what?
Really?
I've never heard of that before. Yeah, but it's real. Like people, like they have, I can see some positives to that, but I think that if it's just going to be one more thing, that's where I think that feels like where it comes from. But I love how you described that. Yes, we need to be with those students talking about how their emotions and their feelings are working together towards that behavior. And I guess for a long time, I took that for granted because I felt like, I knew that was happening. And that's something that I always implemented in my teaching, but it's not like, I don't think it's going to go out of style because I don't think enough people still know how it works in the classroom. But what do you think, Rachelle?
Thank you. I didn't know if you were asking me or not. And I was thinking like, I'll say something. Well, what's interesting is, don't laugh at me yet. Give me time.
I do want to
say
Friday. Wait. So I think Rachelle is the author to include SEL in a book.
Ooh.
I think I heard that, and I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's the right person.
So at George, if he's wrong, at him. Not
No, but what I was going to say is like over, I don't even know how many years now. I'm going to say for a long time that I've been teaching, there've been a lot of things that I have been doing in my classroom, but either I thought I was doing right, like project-based learning. And then I realized, no, I was doing learning based on projects. Totally not the same thing. And then things that I fell into, like my very first ISTE conference, I did a poster session and somebody said, oh, you're app smashing. I went, what's that? And they explained and I went, oh, and I kind of fell into some things without necessarily knowing like what the name was or what, the specific method or acronym was for it. But I remember a couple of years ago, probably 5 years ago now, somebody said, so what are you doing to address SEL in your classroom? And I said, what's that? Because I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with it. And they said, well, social emotional learning. So I went and I Googled and I found castle.org and I tell the same story all the time. And I started to research and then I breathed a sigh of relief because I realized I was doing some things in my class. Like I would have them doing activities and working together, but I wasn't identifying it as SEL, but I wasn't intentional about doing more of that. And another part of it, and I think some teachers feel this way too, is like, maybe depending on the class or the grade level you teach, you don't realize, like, let's say social awareness, like in science, for example, you might not necessarily think, well, I could do this to help students develop skills in social awareness, or I don't teach that. Like even when it comes to technology and STEAM, like I teach English. What am I going to do with STEM in my class? But it's something that's not meant to be something on top of everything else. And when I added it into the book that you mentioned for ISSE, I was nervous about putting that in there because I always say I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to share like how I started to do it more, and it became something not extra added on top, but just little things that you can do throughout the day quickly with tech, no tech, any of that. And so I thank you for saying that, because it wasn't something that came easily for me to write, but it was something that I identified that I need to learn more about. And there's so many ways out there to do it. And the last thing that I'll say is right now, started the school year. For years, I was like, let's learn Spanish. Okay, here's your rules. Day 1, day 2, I'll learn your names and all that later. And I've totally gotten away from that. And so one of my students today said, are we doing an icebreaker? I went, what's wrong with icebreakers? He said, apparently there's this SEL thing out there that we're all trying to build relationships. And I just laughed at him and I said, well, I've been doing icebreaker kind of things for a couple of years. So, but the students are starting to learn more about it too, which is essential because it helps them to know the why behind the activities and tools and methods we're using. So I'm going to stop there.
Yeah. So, I love everything you said, and you are right. My son, he was supposed to see his little friend yesterday. He's 16. He's 16. And so it was canceled, and I saw that he was visibly upset. And so when I tried to talk to him, he's like, I don't want to talk right now. I'm good. Oh. And so he went for a walk or whatever. And so I FaceTimed him, and he was like in our, communal TV room that's, like in the main lodge. And so, he was okay. And so I called him and I said, son, I really want you to loop back to the emotion of the day. And I want you to not ignore that thing because, and he goes, Dad, I already see you talking about this stuff all the time. I know what to do. I already labeled it. I got it. I already labeled it. I confronted it. And I called her and her mom and said, I didn't appreciate that y'all canceled. And
wow.
They guys, and now we're good. And now I'm, it's over. I'll see them on Sunday. And
wow.
Yeah. And so I wish I would have had a conscious adult when I was a kid. It would have saved me a whole lot of trouble, a whole lot of outbursts, but yeah, it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I was reading an article today about this guy. I don't even know who he is, but I guess he did a whole Twitter thread as well. But he was talking about how most teachers are still trying to teach how they were taught when they were younger. And so that's why public school isn't working for so many. And I'm not going to say that he's completely wrong. I still think that there's a lot of that out there, but I am just not in the circles with those educators. Like I'm in circles with educators who are doing, like they're taking amazing risks on new things or doing things like SEL, like that's just a part of their methodology. And and we got a comment from Chuck. Hey Chuck, love that you are setting the example. George, yes, it is a great story. So yes,
let's give Chuck a shout out. Chuck got me involved in his conference last year, and he had like a gazillion people attend his conference. Chuck, you're doing great work, brother. I love you, and we need to chat soon. And thank you, man. Yeah. I think, Dr. Maya Angelou said it best. You have to live your teaching. You have to live your teaching, and I think that, like if you think about what Rachelle was saying, I'm not an expert. I think we're all figuring things out, especially SEO. It's a national conversation now, right? And so I just think that as long as we have research that we can refer to, like she said, Castle, those are the experts. Those are the people that have aligned SEL, not just to classrooms, but to the community, to policy, right? Like in schools, to culture. And so as long as we have that, but then if we have some personal insight that we did this, and then have some actionable steps that other people can, replicate. Our advice to educators needs to really be like a chapter 4 in a dissertation, where anybody can pick it up and follow and replicate not just our process, but our success. And Darius, that's
Okay.
my boy.
We gotta give a shout out to Darius.
We gotta give D a shout out. What's up, brother?
Thank you, Darius. Thank you. Yes.
Heart's bad there we go.
Yeah.
Yes. I love following Darius. He's another person that is so engulfed in SEL. And so let's talk about your latest podcast episode with our wonderful leader, Dr. Sarah Thomas. And it's okay not to be okay. So if you're here on the Friday night and you're like, I want to go to bed early, it's not even 7 o'clock and I'm ready to hit the Netflix and chill and do that for the rest of the weekend. I mean, it's okay not to be okay if you have a plan to get better with it. So how did you come up with this?
Oh my God. So no, that was her. No, that title, I want to say it's not okay to not be okay. That was Sarah, right? Well, Dr. Thomas, I'll say first, right? And then our show producer, Errol, he came with the second part, as long as you have a plan, right? And if you listen to her episode, she very clearly states, right, looping back to the emotion of the day. And Jen Perry gets credit for that, but that's an important thing. And it's okay not to be okay, but you need to have a plan. I love hip hop, and I was listening to Cameron, or Cameron, I should say, interview. So I'm not sure if you guys know who this guy is, but
I don't.
Okay, but he was like, don't call me and tell me that you're just maintaining. Don't tell me that. No. You are going to be okay, and you're going to, that you're leveling up. And so that's what I took from her interview, that it's okay if we don't feel right, or if we're experiencing something, a major loss, but we need to have a plan out. And that's why, if you loop back to what we said earlier, it can't go out of style. We're always experiencing emotions. And if we're not able to loop back to what we're experiencing internally, then how can we face other things, like what's happening in Afghanistan?
Right.
Like implicit bias, all of these things, they elicit another set of emotions. And so I really love that episode. They're all my favorite episodes. But Sarah's episode is special in the sense that when she speaks, she's speaking from experience, and then her passion and her energy and her cadence and all that just, it's a beautiful mashup. And, I can't wait to tell you guys something in the future.
Oh, my.
But
you can't tell us now?
I'm not,
I know. I think I know what it is.
I know what it is too.
Yeah, wow.
Well, I'll be having a conversation with her in a couple of weeks once things slow down. Well, they never slow down, but
I was going to say, do you have inside information that things are going to slow down in the world? Like, do you have a machine that can slow it down? And actually, I'm thinking, last Friday when we had Weston and Molly Kieschnick on, I ended up being on here twice. There were two of me. So I'm good with either slowing things down, on an individual basis, right? And then all of a sudden you can just catch up with the rest of the world, or just occasionally having a double that can help me with all of the things.
Well, I gotta say, this podcast that you had with Dr. Sarah was amazing. I loved it because I really feel like being honest and transparent with your emotions helps others. And we all think so much of Dr. Sarah. She has her hands in so many different things, and she is an amazing leader. But for her to share some vulnerability, and she actually lives it. And because I am a good friend with her, I do, and she checks in on me when she asks me, and I think that's why I love her so much, because everything she says is legitimately 100% true, things that she practices in real life. And I think that's why this episode was so powerful for me, because not only did I listen to her words, and they're always wonderful when I listen to her words, but I know she lives it. And that's what has helped me grow in the last few years. So I couldn't wait to listen to this episode, and I'm going to put it up there one more time. I really hope you guys will check it out. Do you have any guests coming up? Do you know what your next episodes are going to be about?
Yeah, well, no, everything is SEL. Obviously, everything is research based. And so we are going with what the audience wants. And so we are not dodging anything that is difficult. Elephants in the room. What teachers are really, dealing with, from the mask mandates, right, to having to do SEL on top of everything else, to not having things in order that they've been told that would be in order, like not being at the table when all these decisions are made. And so with that said, right, our selection of who's on the show is very organic. It's not like, well, I'm going to have all the best folks that are in this space on the show. No, it's folks that like us are figuring it out, but they can help our audience, which is our teachers. And so I want to give a shout out to Errol, who's our show producer. And I am learning so much from him, and just about the research that really goes into these episodes. And if you hear the conversations, there's no fluff. It's straight to the point. It's straight to the point. It's very brief, but it's what people really need. And so I got Sarah on there because we were on a podcast with Carl Hooker, the amazing Carl Hooker, and I got to hear her, and I was like, that's who we need when we talk about adult SEL. And so shows are coming, but they are organic, and they're research based, and you'll see.
How do people share ideas with you? Do they do that on Twitter or?
Well, no, like it can be so many different ways. Like our last episode that we just recorded, I was at a staff meeting, all administrators, and someone said, George, this is really great, but how do we get those few teachers that don't want to do this? And so he ended up on the show.
Wow. I want to hear that one.
Yeah,
that'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Tag me when that one comes out, please.
I will, but so I had to advocate for our teachers and our listeners. It's not that we don't want to do something. It's just that there's a lot going on, and we were never informed anyway, right?
Right.
So that sort of thing. So
I love it. Can't wait to check that out. Okay, Rachelle, I don't want to cut you off, but we're getting close to the end, and I have a new game. But I don't want to take your thoughts away or out.
That would be under the assumption that I actually had some thoughts to contribute at that point. But I did want to say, there was only one thing I wanted to say, because I said a lot before, and so I figured that would just kind of, cover the bases a little bit. But in my classroom with my students, whenever the students were talking about like the SEL, I mean, not directly, but like the breakers and why are we doing all these things. So I did yesterday was the first day with students, and I teach Spanish levels 1 through 4. I have a STEAM course. So students in levels 2 through 4, I pretty much know all of them, but most the first level and my STEAM students, I didn't know. I only knew a handful from having had them in 8th grade. And in even some cases, they were students that I never saw in person all year, or most times on the screen because, cameras were off or whatever. So like, it's so hard to identify them, first of all, and then with the masks and everything. But so I wanted to spend time to get to know them. And so yesterday I was just talking a little bit with them, and then just random activities. And Mel, you will totally appreciate this. We did a game using quizzes of would you rather?
Ooh.
Would you rather? Not in Spanish. And they were like,
nice.
Seriously? Now the first class, it was 10. Because quizzes is great. Like all those game-based tools, like you can find already made things, or, add your own in. And then I changed it and I added extra questions, but there were some really silly questions on there. But, people initially might think like, what's the connection? What's the point to that? And did it take a lot of time? No, if you have an account, you just get it, do the game. Or if you don't create the account, find a game. But then for students to get to learn and see the comparisons, would you travel to a different country for a month, or would you travel within the United States for a month? And okay, so I pulled it up, and I had like say 8 to 3, and I said, oh, okay, well, which country, and then why? or, some of their other choices. And then they got to talk to one another. So there really were a lot of opportunities for me to get to know them, to have fun, to like ease into the year. But the funniest thing about it today, there were two questions. And two of the questions, one was the country thing. So I went around and I asked, and I laughed. I go, interesting, you're all in Spanish 3, and not a one of you mentioned wanting to travel to any Spanish speaking country. Like it was all Italy, France, Canada. I mean, I'm like, I find that, and they were laughing so hard. And then the other one, it was different foods, and I picked different types, just very basic snack foods and everything. And I had nachos on there just because the kids are always talking about liking nachos, and only one student picked nachos. Everybody else picked pizza, spaghetti, and steak. And I said, what's up with this? But then I was able to ask them the questions in Spanish too, and like tie it back a little bit for review. So like there was some education. I like nachos, but it was just something fun and lighthearted. And I heard like some of my students today said, yeah, we have a test next period. I said, it's the second day of school. What do you mean you have a test? And they said, well, we starting things. I go, yeah, no, we're not doing any of that. I said, I need to get to know you. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. Like, I want to know your names. I want to know how to say your names. I want you to know about each other. So I was thinking of you, and I actually did tell them my friend and I like to play games. We play this Would You Rather. So anyway, without further delay, we can dive into some rapid fire.
We will. And this is another game that I'm just totally going off the cuff, but Rachelle, that's so amazing. And I think, these silly things, it's just the relationship building. George, when you were saying, like your son already knows all of this. And Rachelle, when you were saying that your students are like, yeah, our teachers want to build relationships with us. That's what we want our kids to grow up. And that's new. So I think that's really cool. All right. We are playing a new game. It's called Rapid Fire. All right. This is just fun. It is not serious. You can definitely do this in the classroom if you want. I'm going to ask George and Rachelle just random questions. And those of you who are watching, please join in. You may also, I want to hear your answers as well. Okay. And some of them are going to be just really basic, and some of them are going to be like, hopefully catching them off guard, and we'll have a laugh. Okay. And I'm just making these up off the top of my head. Okay. So rapid fire. Here we go. We'll start easy. What's your favorite ice cream?
Vanilla.
Okay, cool. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Black.
Oh, cool.
Black's my second
Okay.
favorite, though. Black's my second favorite.
Look at you guys. Wow. Okay. Okay. What is your favorite, what is your favorite place to be in the world?
At home with my family.
Oh, now I can't.
I mean, I've been
Rachelle, you have to do it. I was going to say, you would be off brand if you didn't do it.
I've been to Nashville a few times. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What? Hey, Marianne. What is is it pecan or pecan? Well, I say pecan, but
Pecan. Yeah, she likes
Pecan.
pecan ice cream.
oh,
Pecan
oh,
ice
right.
cream.
Oh, right. I love that. Oh my gosh. Yes, I love that too. Okay. Thank you. Guys have a better memory than I do. Okay. What is the funniest thing that you have experienced? Both of you are in front of people a lot. What is the funniest thing that has happened to you on stage or when you're talking to a group of people?
Oh, I'm not going
I
to be
forgot
so
the
rapid.
clicker.
You forgot the clicker?
And had to run over and hit it every time. And then finally had to just bring someone to do it. Yeah, I look real dumb doing that. I mean, think about that. Like, how silly is that, right? Like, you're running back and forth between slides, and you're trying to play it off and act like you're walking, but no, like you're trying to like be around the laptop.
I have two. But the one I thought of first, and that was, I spoke at EdModoCon a couple of years ago in person in San Mateo, and they pulled up like on the screen like a picture of me, and I was actually wearing the same thing. Like it was in a practice, so I had like the same thing on, and I'm like, that's a little awkward. But actually, the funniest thing was because you get so used to using like your smartboard and things at school that I was at a presentation in Pittsburgh for language teachers years ago. And I went to the board to kind of point and move things on the screen, but it was just like the roll down projection, like movie screen. It wasn't a smart board.
Wait. So like your presentation, I can't even wrap my mind around that.
The presentation was projected onto like just the roll down, screen, like almost like the maps out. But whenever I've done presentations in that same type of space, it has been like an interactive, like Promethean or some type of board you touch on. So I was touching on the board, but it wasn't a board, it was a screen.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love
And I
that.
just
That's
submitted that.
awesome.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
great. That is great. Well, that is, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. That I know, because it's crazy. It's
That's
already
it?
past 30 minutes.
We're done?
Come
Oh,
on, you got
man.
to come up with two more.
I cleared my whole calendar for this.
Okay.
Like,
No. I just wanted to be respectful. Sometimes we just got to get, okay, this is great. Okay. What is the hottest food you have ever eaten?
Big red gum.
Takis.
Takis? Ugh.
Yeah. Oh my, it's disgusting. But that's what my kids eat, and I tried it. Whoa, it was a lot. It was a lot to handle.
My kids love them too. Rachelle, what was the hottest food you've ever eaten?
I said big red gum.
Oh, big red.
I used to like Big Red.
Me too.
It would make
I used to
my
like
mouth burn and my eyes water. Yeah, I know. I always joke about it.
Can you still get Big Red?
I don't know.
Gosh, now I'm gonna.
I can't chew gum anymore since I had jaw surgeries. So I'm, yeah.
I'm gonna look for it.
I bet you
I'm
can.
gonna. If I find it, I'm gonna tag you when I find it. Okay. What do you do when you're really nervous? Like,
make all the, yeah.
what is your like? What is that? Do you have a tick when you're nervous?
Well, I used to get nervous a lot, and I figured out how to make all the butterflies fly in the same direction. And so I just basically do 3 deep breaths. And there's a science behind that, that when you focus on your breathing, you interrupt your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all in your head anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's all emotion, right? And so and then when you do something over and over again, like, think of science, empirical evidence. Empirical evidence is a knowing from the senses because you've experienced it. Mm-hmm. And so after years and years and years of being in that same situation, repetition is the mother of skill. You already know how the outcome's going to be as long as you're prepared.
Right.
And so that's but those 3
I like that.
reps,
There you go. What do you do, Rachelle?
There's a couple things I do, but I do notice that sometimes, like my fingers, like I'll go through and I'll tap them, a little bit like fast like that, and that just, I don't know. I just noticed I did it one day, and I've done it often. Like when I feel myself getting nervous, I will do that, and then I just take a breath, and then I'm fine. But it's just like I don't know. So
wow.
Now everybody
it's all
knows
back to the breathing.
when they see me do like this.
Yeah. You don't even want to know what I do, and I'm not going to share. Okay. And so do you rapid fire, like my brain is now into Big Red. We are, I'm going to close this, but I want to ask both of you, do you have any final words that you want to share with everybody before we say goodbye? And we will definitely see you all on Monday.
No, I just want to say to anyone who's watching, thank you for watching. You could have been doing anything else. And
we love you.
Thank you. And I love you guys right back. And just do things that are good for you and good for other people. I think Elvis said that. Do what you want, but don't hurt no one. So that's it. Yeah.
Right. I love that. Rachelle, do you have anything to add?
No, the only thing really is, like, for anybody who's been back to school, if it was your first week, I know I'm exhausted, everybody's exhausted, and you just have to, even though it's hard to say, like, well, I can't do this because this person needs it, or I'll let them down. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's about our wellness and taking care of ourselves. And so you have to force, like, you will get caught up, but just force yourself to go take a nap, take a walk, give yourself a timeout, whatever it is that works for you. And it might even only be like a 5-minute, just like tapping your fingers like I do. But you need to put those breaks in, or add something in. Like my new thing, there was a bakery across the street from school. I've decided that one day a week, I'm going to order a nice Americano with some flavored syrup on it, and get outside and walk and get it quick. And like, that's going to be the thing I look forward to, like, as a midweek break. So small things, embrace small things. So
George says, happy SELing, everybody. So thank you all for watching.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.
Bye.